Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. Let me introduce to you some people from town government that assist this board. To my left is Paul Hennings, attorney to the board. To his left is Blaise Donadio, a planner in the planning department. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve your goals whenever possible. It's your job to provide us with precise, accurate information so we as a board can make a decision based on the facts that you present tonight. We as a board must consider the 5 following factors, and they're listed here for you. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other means. Number 3, whether the variance is substantial. 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are listed. When you are called, please present your certificates of postings and mailings to Mr. Donadio. Then you will be asked to go to the podium where you state your name and address for the record and proceed to tell us why you need the variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given 1 opportunity to do so. Then you can come back to the podium to answer their concerns. There are 3 ways to find out about your case. You can stay after the hearing, but there's no guarantee that your case will be voted on tonight. You can call the planning office tomorrow, or you can wait and be notified by mail.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda, number 17724, DeJohn Realty of Kings Park, LLC. The location of the property is the south side of Pulaski Road, 770 feet east of Town Line Road. The property is zoned LI. The applicant is requesting a special exception to permit a trucking station in the LI zoning district.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio. I'm sure by now you've all read the Planning Advisory Report, which recommends approval of this application. Also, some time ago, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, maybe a little sooner, the town board modified the light industrial zoning district to allow outside storage. We then consulted with the planning department. Planning department said the best way to make this happen is to apply for a trucking station, and that's what we've done. The property use meets all the requirements of the general standards as well as the specifics for a trucking station. Just a little history. Pete DeJana, the original and founder of DeJana Truck and Equipment, started 60 years ago in a garage, I believe in Huntington, and in the early 90s opened up on Pulaski Road. If anyone goes down Pulaski Road, you might not see DeJana's sign because it's almost hidden. Their operation is a very quiet one, a staple of the community, and they've been there, and they've been good neighbors, not only to the other commercial uses, but to the neighbors across Pulaski on the north side. If the board wants, I can go through the general standards. It's up to you.
I don't think that's necessary.
Okay. Further, if the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Andy DeJana is here, who was the son of Pete and basically runs the company. and also their controller is here, Jerry Dressel.
Right. Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this
No question.
application?
Only question I have is, in the PR, it recommends cross-access if practicable. Do you know if that's on the site plan? I didn't see the...
We noticed it. If it's practical, we'll try and do it.
Planning?
Nothing further to add.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Come up, please.
I live across the street.
Please, can you just come up first? All right. Could
We
you...
bought this
what-
property-
Excuse me, please. Could you state your name, spell your last name for the record, and give your address, please?
My name is Angela Salerno. I live directly across the street from DeJana.
All right, could you spell your last
Trucks.
name for the record, please?
Salerno.
Okay, thank you.
And we moved there, we had bought the property and later decided to build. Had no idea DeJana was going to be across the street. Had I known, we would never have built our home there. The trucks are there for morning, noon, and night. And they want to build, and our side from between Meadow Glen, and everyone drives on Pulaski Road, you have to know, between Meadow Glen and Bread and Cheese is all residential. Now we have this thing there, and he wants to put more trucks? Do we need more? There's nothing on that side yet. Do we need that? It was a residential area, that's why we moved there. I don't want to see any more trucks. Is that wrong?
No, that's your opinion.
I'm so upset, I'm sick over it.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Maybe my husband, but it's very upsetting. Oh, not only that, the trucks, when they go in there, they back up and they go right up on our berm. Several times there's been markings there.
First of all, the
Good
notice,
eve-
the
good evening.
notice,
What, could you,
John Salerno,
Okay,
same
and-
last name,
and your address, please, for the record?
567 Pulaski Road.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, first of all, the notice that came out said that the property was east of Meadow Glen, from the notice I got in the mail. It didn't say east of Town Line, which even exacerbates the situation, because right now what happens is, during the day, it takes me 5 minutes to get out of my driveway sometimes because of the truck traffic and the traffic that's on Pulaski Road in the morning. Sometimes when trucks backing out of Virginia, the traffic is slowed down and backs up the traffic. They go right up on my burn to get around the truck that's going into the driveway. In addition to that, sometimes 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, right through my bedroom window, I hear beep, 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 a truck backing up in the Virginia. So this is untenable. The more truck traffic that's going to be there, they're going to create a big situation. Meadow Glen and Town Line Road needs a traffic light to slow down those cars that come zooming up to, as they go past Meadow Glen Road, they come to right in front of my house and right in front of DeJana. That's when DeJana's truck starts pulling out, and there's going to be an accident, a major accident's going to be over there one of these days because they speed right past Meadow Glen Road. As far as the residential property, everything on the north side of the street is residential. On the south side of it is DeJana's building. The building is kept well. The lawns are, I have no complaint, and he's a good Marine, Pete. But adding more truck traffic is going to be harmful. That's all I have to
All
say.
right, thank you. Is there someone else? Please. Good evening. Could you
my
state
name-
your name, spell your last name, and give your address for the record, please?
Okay. My name is Ann Chason, last name Charisson, 575 Pulaski Road. Angela and John Salerno are my next-door neighbors. It's some very dangerous conditions with the trucking company across the street. They've, the stated speed limit on the road is 40 miles per hour, which is ridiculous because there's a hill going up for the traffic on DeJana's side and hill going down on the other side. a lot of times there'll be tractor trailers with cars and trucks on Dejana's side, which makes all the traffic having to go around. In other words, there's no one directing traffic, but you have to figure out if you're going to have to go around, and if someone coming down is going to hit you, it's very difficult and very dangerous. For one thing, the traffic speed on that stretch should be very much lower. You know, it should be at least 30 miles an hour. 40 is ridiculous. One time I was getting out of my driveway, a motorcycle was coming up the hill, must have been going 70 miles an hour. I almost didn't see it. I almost, you know, collided with it. But if cars go fast, that's a problem too. There's been accidents down at the bottom of the hill because sometimes a truck can't stop and hits a vehicle. Someone was killed at the bottom of the hill, hit by a truck, tried to make a turn and fell on top of the car. The woman inside was killed. It's a very dangerous situation there. It doesn't say any information really. The information about the location of the property is absolutely wrong, as John Salerno mentioned. It says east of Meadow Glen. It's in fact west of Meadow Glen. It doesn't say how wide the frontage of the property is going to be. Does anyone have an answer for that?
We'll bring them back up to answer your concerns.
Oh. All right. It doesn't say if the buildings that are there now are pretty much below road level. It doesn't say whether the buildings are going to be at road level or below road level.
Do you talk in the microphone so?
Oh, the picture doesn't show us whether the buildings will be below road level, like the ones that are there now, or at road level where they're, you know, where it'll be more on display. It doesn't say how far back the buildings will be from the road. The buildings they have now are pretty far back from the road, you know, so there's really not too much information here. So
That's
those are two of-
that's not this case.
it's not set back from the road the way.
No, you're looking at that drawing over there. That has nothing to do with this.
Oh, well, where are the drawings?
We'll bring them back up and ask.
Oh, yeah, well, I'd like to see the architect's rendering and some of the information about the frontage, how wide the frontage will be, how far back it'll go. And I don't know, was that all done in the 5 minutes before I got here?
No.
I was, you know, all right.
Okay. Is there anyone else like to be heard in this application?
I'd like to point one thing out, Mr. Chairman. One of the things, this is a special exception. I don't know if everyone realizes that. A special exception is a permitted use. They're here for the special exception to permit a trucking station in the LI district. A special exception, if they meet all the general and specific standards, this board has no choice but to approve. It's a permitted use. They meet all the standards, and this has gone through the planning department. So there is no choice that this board has to make whether we can or can't approve it. We have to approve it because it's permitted and they meet the standards. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Tramarko?
The property is 270 feet along Pulaski, and it's almost 600 feet on the south line going south. So it's a pretty big piece of property. The clients have no intention of taking down the foliage in the front of the property along Pulaski. It'd be much the same as the Dejana that exists now. And as Mr. Tanzi said, this is a special exception. We meet every requirement. Dejana didn't make the zoning there. The zoning existed long before Dejana came there. And the only thing that happened recently was outside storage being permitted in a light industrial zone, which the town board did. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration. I think part of the problem that the neighbors have is not Dejana, it's the fact that Pulaski is a well-traveled, busy road, and it's true, there is a hill there, and it makes for not an ideal situation. But again, we didn't make Pulaski Road, we didn't make the zoning. All we want to do is quietly expand our operation, and I think the neighbors do know that Dejana has been a good neighbor and tries to do whatever they can to be as a nuisance as possible. One of the problems is the town zoned light industrial on one side, the other side is residential, and those houses, they're beautiful, that were built there, I think about 8 or 10 years ago or whatever. But that's the zoning that exists. And again, Mr. Tanzi said it better than I could say it. It's zoned. We're asking for a special exception. We meet every criteria, and we ask the board for its approval. A special exception is like a building permit. The only difference is it goes to this board rather than to the building department in order for this board to check and make sure we meet all the requirements. Once that's done, respectfully, you have to grant the special exception. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. No. No.
Dejana has another place.
No.
Is there any way to fight this? You're saying you're accepting it, but you said the other thing was a later thing.
At the
Is there
be-
any way to fight that?
Madam, at the beginning, we said we give each person one opportunity to come up and state your concerns. And then we bring back the applicant to answer your concerns. That's it.
You said you're allowed it.
Thank you.
This is a free country.
The next case on the agenda, number 17725, Roy Hafner, 121 Grassy Pond Drive South,
The folder.
in Smithtown. The location of the properties, the east side of Grassy Pond Drive, 427 feet south of Lone Oak Path. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a side yard setback from 16 to 13 feet for an existing above-ground pool with deck.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself in this matter.
Fine. All right, good evening.
Good evening. My name is William Sosa. I just bought the property at 121 Grassy Pond Drive, Smithtown, 11787.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
William Sosa, S-O-S-A.
On here, who is Roy Hafner?
Previous owner. It just changed hands.
I'm sorry?
Previous owner, he just changed hands. He has just purchased the property a few days ago.
Were you closed on the property?
Yes,
Do you have anything to show that?
yes.
Do you know who Roy Hafner is? Because Patricia. Yeah, but we have okay, yeah. Okay. Let me just say. Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah, he's now the owner. He would substitute for the applicant. the record, he showed me a copy of his deed and tax filing.
All right, fine. I'm sorry, but once again, could you state your name, spell your last name for the record, please?
William Sosa, S-O-S-A,
And the address, please?
121 Grassy Pond Drive.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Would you like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
Yes, I'll give him.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, again, could you state your name, spell your last name, and give your address for the record?
Tim Jordan, 9 Flamingo Drive, Smithtown, New York, 11787. Formerly representing Roy Hafner, now representing Mr. Sosa, who just assumed the contract. Our variance today is, hopefully in the board's eyes, a de minimis one regarding a detached pool with a required setback of 16 on the side with providing 12.2. We recently had another survey done, so we're asking for the additional 0.8 inches.
13 feet.
Yeah, exactly. So, with regards to the questions, we feel this application does no harm to the neighborhood or conditions of the neighborhood, nor will it change the character of the neighborhood. There are pools to the left and to the right. There are no environmental issues with this application. That pool was constructed in approximately 1988, and it's unfortunately due to the grade, where it's dug into the grade, it's mostly exposed to the north side. In order to get it to move to the south side to comply, it would be a tremendous practical difficulty, and I don't think the pool would survive.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion?
No,
I'm
we're
sorry. I jumped the gun a little bit, I'm sorry. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No.
No question.
No,
Planning?
thank you.
No. Now, anyone in the audience have any concerns on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank
For
you.
your time.
Paul's so picky.
The next case on the agenda, number 17726, Barbara Blansker. Location of the property is the south side of Holiday Park Drive, 383 feet south of Cardinal Lane in Hauppauge. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the rear yard setback from 50 to 46 feet for an existing 148-square-foot porch, increase the side yard paving from 25 to 30%, which is existing.
Good evening.
Good evening, Louis Castellano, Castellano. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Chairman, we're here for a minor, what we feel is a minor variance from 56 feet to 46 feet for the existing sunroom in the back of the house. We don't feel it's an impact on the neighborhood because we back up to industrial. There's no environmental issues. It was self-created, and the variance and the benefit cannot be achieved by any alternative methods because it's already built. I believe that would be it. As far as the driveway, if you go up and down a block, you'll see many of the houses have the additional blacktop for off-street parking.
Fine. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
No? Does anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too now.
The next case on the agenda, number 17727, HSG 1 LLC, 90 to 92 West Main Street in Smithtown. The location of the property, the south side of West Main Street, 30 feet west of Maple Avenue. The property is zoned CB. The applicant is requesting a special exception to permit 6 accessory apartments, 3 on a second floor and 3 on a third floor. Variance of a special exception standard that there shall be adequate off-street parking and reduce the parking spaces from 35 to 0. Increase the maximum permitted stories from 2.5 to 3. Reduce the front yard setback from 10 feet to 0. Reduce the rear yard setback from 50 feet to 0. Increase the gross floor area of a lot from 60% to 165%, which is 94% existing. Reduce the minimum truck loading spaces from 1 to 0.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio. As was just indicated in the reading of the special exception and variances, the property is Zone CB. The present land use is a one-story building containing a retail store. Across the street is Schubert's Auto Body, a restaurant, and some other retail uses. A little to the east is CVS, which was converted a few years ago from a small shopping center. Now, we propose to extend that one-story building to 3 stories, basically to match what's being built next door. Next door is the old lumberyard property, Nassau Suffolk Lumber, which my client bought some years ago, made applications to this board, and this board granted accessory apartments, I believe 56 accessory apartments. One of the issues, it's not really an issue, it's a state law that says once you're over 5 units, you must provide workforce housing. And the workforce housing, which in this case, as indicated by the planning department, specifically Dave Flynn, is 3 apartments. We must provide 3 apartments to conform to the workforce housing requirements of the financial status of those people who qualify for such an opportunity. So we're going to do that, and we're going to build the existing one-story building up 2 more stories. It's going to be basically even with the large apartment use right next door, so everything will be kind of uniform, and the whole complex, the apartments that you've already approved, these new 6 apartments, and even the end building will all conform. You have a rendering there to be designed in the same type fashion. It certainly will be an improvement on Main Street. As the planning department said in their planning advisory report, even though some of these variances seem severe, the greater good is the benefit to the public. And the benefit to the public is, one, we're going to clean up an area that needs to be cleaned up. I venture to say that the 2 buildings on the corner probably are 100 years old, and certainly, you know, they need improvement. The other buildings, as you know, were knocked down. Nassau Suffolk was knocked down probably 10 years ago now. And we're at the final stages of getting approvals from the town. There really is nothing negative about this application. The PAR also states that because of the type of environment where we are, it's to the benefit of even the people that ultimately rent in those units to be where they are, to be in walking distance of a drugstore, few restaurants. Town Hall, as you know, is right across the street. So, you know, all in all, the public will benefit from the apartment use, and it's needed in downtown Smithtown. So we don't feel that the variances will create an undesirable situation with the character of the neighborhood. The character of the neighborhood right now is really not too good, and it's certainly going to be a vast improvement. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant. Well, we're cleaning up another building. Actually, we're cleaning up that whole corner, and we're making it all part of one design and one beautiful building. Actually, there's three or four buildings in the complex. Whether the requested variance is substantial. Well, if you look at it in a vacuum, yeah, it sounds very substantial. On the other hand, look what we're doing. For example, a parking from 35 to 0. Well, yes, it's 35 to 0, but we have agreed to provide a cross-access easement in perpetuity. So even if one of the buildings is sold, the present building or the big complex, it will be subject to an easement where the people who rent in the 6-unit building will have access to parking no matter what. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental, well, we've provided, basically, it's a sewer plant. That this small 6-unit building, as well as the 56 units, will be connected to a health department approved sewer plant right on the site. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. No, we're creating something that the town, I believe, really wants. It seems that the planning department is in favor of it. The PAR, again, is favorable. I think the only concern that the planning department has was making sure that there was this cross-access, which obviously we have to give because there's no parking space on the building immediately to the east. Again, we have some special exception standards and the general standards. If you like, I'll go through them, but...
Not necessary.
Okay. So if the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'll ask. Anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
Nothing further to add.
No. Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, number 17728, Cosentino Realty Comac, LLC, 686 Comac Road, Comac. The location of the property, the southeast corner of Comac Road and Henry Street. The property is owned SCB. The applicant is requesting a variance to increase the maximum area of a wall sign from 78 square feet to 89 square feet. Increase the maximum height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 18 feet.
Donald King, 75 East Main Street, Kings Park, New York. Attorney for the applicant. The last time I was here, the last meeting, you approved Sub Rosa. This is in the same shopping center. The sign is up. It's compatible with the rest of the shopping center. It will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. We need the variance. It's not at all substantial. It won't have an effect on the environment, and it is self-created, but that's not fatal under the case law. The sign is up, and I'd ask your approval.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, number 17729, PJ Venture Mattress Firm, 8 Garrett Place, Comac. The location of the property, the southwest corner of Garrett Place and Henry Street. The property is owned SCB. The applicant is requesting a variance to increase the maximum height of 2 wall signs from 15 to 18 feet, increase the maximum number of wall signs from 1 to 2, permit a wall sign not to face a public street.
Donald King, 75 East Main Street, Kings Park, New York. This sign is going to be located directly across from 5 Below. That's the application I was in on a couple of weeks ago, and we've submitted a plan on that. It's compatible with the shopping center. It cannot be seen from Crooked Hill Road. You come up the hill, and then you go down the hill towards 5 Below, and it's the building just facing where 5 Below will be. It won't produce a change in the character of the neighborhood. We need the variance. It's not substantial. It won't have an adverse effect on the environment, and it's not self-created.
Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No. Can I have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
The next case on the agenda, number 17730, Thomas Lozito, 21 Orchard Lane, Comac. The location of the property, the east side of Orchard Lane, 162 feet north of Walter Court. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard from 40 to 32 feet for a proposed 140 square foot first floor addition and 60 square foot portico.
Good evening.
Hello, my name is Thomas Losito, Losito.
Okay. Would you like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Again, state your name, spell your last name, and the address for the record, please.
Gennaro Cozzolino, Cozzolino, 2125 Deer Park Avenue, Deer Park, New York, 11729.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Gennaro Cozzolino for the homeowner Thomas Lucido, residing at 21 Orchid Lane, Comac. Also known as Section 120, Block 4, Lot 78, located in the R110 zone. We're requesting relief from the board to construct a 17.4 by 8-foot first floor addition, extending the kitchen, and also a 6 by 10 roof over. The proposed additions require a variance for front yard setback, requesting to build at 32 feet from permitted 40 feet, a difference of 8 feet. The proposed addition complies with all other zoning requirements. The proposed addition will have no significant impact to the environment, would not affect any of the adjacent properties, and will fit in with the character and nature of the neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No question.
No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No. Can I have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Good
Thank you.
evening.
The next case on the agenda, number 17731, Cumberland Farms, 316 Smithtown Boulevard, Lake Ronkonkoma. The location of the property, the southeast corner of Smithtown Boulevard and Rosevale Avenue. The property is zoned NB and R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to increase the maximum number of wall and canopy signs from 1 to 6, increase the maximum height of 3 wall signs from 15 feet to 30 feet, increase the maximum height of 3 canopy signs from 15 feet to 18 feet, increase the maximum area of a ground sign from 32 square feet to 132 square feet.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. William Benesso for Chetly, Curto, Deegan, Schwartz, Minio, and Tirana, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Uniondale, New York, here on behalf of the applicant, Cumberland Farms. I have for the board handouts, if I may.
Thank you.
Those handouts represent some revisions we made to the plans based upon communications with the planning staff, but I'll get into that in just a moment, if I may. As indicated, I'm here on behalf of Cumberland Farms. Cumberland Farms, as the board may recall, was approved about a year ago by this board with special permit and variance relief to redevelop the premises at 316 Smithtown Boulevard in Lake Ronkonkoma, which is presently developed with a beverage center, mini mart type facility, and there had been gasoline service there as well. It has now been approved for a total redevelopment of the site with a new Cumberland Farms convenience market and new gasoline service, gasoline station service. The relief before the board, and by the way, that approval was granted an extension of time just recently by this board to, I believe, October 26th of 2017, and I'm told by Cumberland that they do intend to start construction very shortly. The application before the board tonight is for signage associated with the project. Now, as filed, the applicant does require the relief indicated by Mr. Donadio. However, since we had some conversations with Mr. Donadio based upon the review and recommendations of the planning staff, we've made some modifications to the sign that we feel will be acceptable to both planning and to the board. First of all, with regard to the ground sign, which required a variance because of the overage in the sign area, it was suggested that because the town considers the entire sign structure itself as part of the sign, that we significantly reduce or eliminate the large stone planter base that had been proposed on the initial plan. We've done that. If you take a look at the first page, you'll see that the planter has been removed, which significantly reduces the overall sign area. We still have the sign. The sign is of a compliant height. The sign area of the sign portion itself is 66 square feet, but it is significantly reduced based on that. Again, it's a compliant height, and this will allow us to still landscape around the sign, but it will do away with the need for the planter, which creates more sign space, so to speak. Right. Additionally, it does away with a setback violation that we were only just made aware of. The sign planter was going to be closer than the 5 feet required. If we were to keep the sign planter, we would have had to relocate it. Instead, we've eliminated it, so the sign now is compliant with regard to its setback.
You're still asking for 132 square feet?
It's not 132 square feet now because of the removal of the planter. The actual sign area is 66 square feet per side, whereas 32 square feet is permitted. per side.
Mhm.
The next change that was suggested.
Well, can you give us the total square footage that it would be if you have it, just so? But does that,
Well, that's for the sign area, right? What about the posts? Don't have that? I do not have that. We don't have the new sign area based on the posts.
okay.
I think it was the planning department came up with the 132.
Could you take the microphone out, please? This way you could walk around and...
Sorry about that. The planning department had come up with the calculation of 132. I don't know if that had been based upon calculations of the planter and the posts, or if they simply doubled the actual sign area per side and came up with that. But again, the removal of the planter structure will substantially reduce at least a portion of the sign area. Turning to the elevations, on the wall signs on the elevations, we were proposing 3 wall signs all over the height limitation. Two were to be 29 feet 8 inches, one was to be 27 feet 8 inches. It was suggested that we reduce the height of the 2 signs on the sides of the building, which we have done. It was suggested that we reduce them to around the green stripe, which was 18 or 19 feet. We've actually gone below the green stripe so that now the maximum height of the signage is at 11 feet 6 inches for the 2 side wall signs. There's the other one. The planning staff did not have a problem with the proposed sign over the front entrance. The last modification.
Just a quick question.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
sorry
sir.
to keep interrupting.
That's okay.
But does that sign go to the 30 feet? Because it seems significantly lower.
That sign is 27, I believe it's 27 feet 8 inches.
All right, so 2 are at 11 and 1...
2 are at 11 feet 6 inches, and the what is it? Sorry, 25'4" is the sign on the entrance of the building, over the entrance of the building. And then lastly, the staff had recommended the removal of the canopy signs altogether. They are on the canopy at a height of 18 feet, where 15 feet is permitted, and they are canopy signs, additional facial signs. The applicant is asking that they be permitted to maintain those. They are a standard of Cumberland. They are on all their canopies. They are relatively small in size in comparison to the canopies, and they do provide some additional identification. However, that said, if the question came up as to whether or not we could have the canopy signs or the wall signs, the applicant would prefer the wall signs be permitted, the 3 wall signs be permitted, and would live without the 3 canopy signs.
Right. The size of those signs,
Those signs
11 square feet?
I believe they're 11 square feet. That's correct. Each. Yes.
Thank you.
That's our direct presentation.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
If I may, I'm sorry. With me this evening is Mr. James Galella from Catapano Engineering. He just calculated the size of the posts. So the posts are 47 square feet for both, and then added to the 66, you get a total of 113 square feet for the overall sign, including the posts.
So the total is 113?
Total of 113. And the post, if you've seen it, it's a very decorative post. It's a stone finished post. It'll certainly be the most attractive gasoline service station
Do you happen to
sign.
know the thickness of the sign?
The thickness of the sign width is,
The actual sign, I believe, is a foot, piers, I believe.
So we wouldn't need to add the 2 signs?
If it's less than 24 inches.
the width of the sign cabinet is 6 feet.
That's the width, but the thickness, because if it's over, I believe, 18 inches?
24 inches.
24 inches, you add both sides, and it's the aggregate total?
For 1 foot posts are 1'8" wide.
Okay, so...
So that's how it's,
Okay, so we would only need that one side?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No question. Planning?
Mr. Chairman, I just did some quick calculations during Mr. Benesso's presentation. The number I came up with in total between the brick stanchions and the sign was 124, so 113 could be closer to the actual size. If you want to play it safe, you can say 125 square feet, because 12 square feet could actually matter. I also want to just mention a few things. Mr. Benesso and I did have a conversation about the signage on the building and the canopy near the end of last week. And basically what planning would recommend is that you know, the signage on the walls of the building are fine. The heights on the two gable ends have been lowered. They're no longer at 30 feet. The sign on over the main entrance has been lowered to 27 feet. It's not up at 30 feet. I don't think we have an issue with the signage on the walls of the building. I think that we've squared away any issues that we may have had with the ground sign. But historically, planning has always recommended not to have any signage on canopies, because between the signage on the walls, the signage on the canopies, and any ground signs basically creates a situation where you have an over-intensification of signage on a site. One option that we did come up with, and I think I did speak to Mr. Benesso about this, although it was late last week, maybe he doesn't recall. One option was that we don't object to the main wall sign on the building that's over the main entrance at 27 feet, and possibly in lieu of keeping the signage on the canopy, the applicant might consider eliminating the wall signs on the two gable ends, whereby they get to keep the signage on the canopy, and they do have a sign on the main wall of the building at the front of the building, but we don't have a situation where we have signage everywhere. And it meets the applicant's needs in terms of visibility and site identification, and at the same time, it limits how much intensification of signage we actually have on the site. So it's an option.
yes, Mr. Donato did discuss that with me, and I brought that back to my clients, and they indicated that if it's basically a choice of either the 3 wall signs or 1 wall sign over the entrance and the canopy signs, they would take the 3 wall signs and no canopy signs at all. So they would take the lowered wall signs on the 2 sides of the building, the sign over the main entrance, and do away with the canopy signs.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard in this application? Certainly. Good evening. Could you state your name, spell your last name? and
Yes,
give the
good
address for
evening.
the record, please.
My name is Raymond Ruscito, Sr., and my last name is spelled R-U-S-C-I-T-O. And I have property that adjoins this piece of property, 2 pieces of property, one my wife owns and one I own. And I'm here today to express my concerns over signs and numerous other things which are not before the board right now. But I will state that I am very concerned about the improper service for this hearing and the hearings prior to my wife and I, who have been established in the town of Smithtown for over 42 years, paying taxes on that property and owning that property for an enormous amount of time and running a business out of there for almost 30 years. They seem to have deliberately not sent the proper notifications to us adjoining property owners. With that said, we'll continue to what's in front of the board today, and that is about the signage. Now, we have two properties there. One is a residential multiple family unit, and one is a retail store. And the address of the retail store is 318 Smithtown Boulevard, which is right next door to this property. We have dealt with this property for, like I said, all the time we've been there, 40 some odd years, 42 years. And we have dealt with numerous problems with the use of the property. I'm glad that Cumberland Farms is coming to the rescue of that piece of property. It's needed an upgrade for many, many years and a change of view, a change to the area for the betterment of everybody concerned. But I am concerned in what the development is going to do to our piece of land and the people that reside on that piece of land and the business that is there. And that has to do with lighting for the residential can be a problem with the signage. The lighting can cause very uncomfortable use of the residential area, and also the blockage of line of sight. Line of sight is basically the sight of the road and the people traveling the road, down the road, to any properties after this corner. That includes the piece of property I'm talking about coming down Smithtown Boulevard, heading east. We are the next piece of property right after Cumberland Farms. We have signage there and so forth. And the proposed sign is almost like a blockade at the corner. It definitely, from what I'm seeing, shows Cumberland Farms, but I can see that it's going to be a line of sight problem with the property that we have, which is pre-existent to the Cumberland Farms, pre-existent to the beer distributor that was there before. In fact, the piece of property that I'm talking about, the original buildings were built in 1927, which gives us a little bit of a pre-existing situation. I believe that what they are doing to upgrade the property, the town has already approved. There's not much we can do about that, but I am concerned with buffer zones and so forth. I'm concerned with the parking area and how they're going to treat the ins and outs, because Smithtown Boulevard's always been a problem with traffic and accidents and safety. Line of sight has a lot to do with that safety issue too. So consideration of how they're going to put the sign, how big the sign is going to be, where the sign is going to be exactly located on the corner can interfere with existing places like our buildings, our commercial building, and the lighting to our residential apartments there. We always kept our places in very good condition, which is far from what I can say that corner has been the 40 some odd years that I've owned the property, and my wife too. And I'd like the board to consider all aspects of just increasing the signage, decreasing the signage, where the signage is going to be located. On the building, I can understand the height and stuff, being a businessman myself, and you reduce the height, that's a good idea. How much lighting comes off those signs? That could be a problem, especially on the sign that faces east, or I should say that would be like southeast. That's a direct reflection on our residential building there, and that could be a problem. The sign on the corner, again, I said, that's an enormous sign, and it's going to create a line of sight problem for traffic to see down the road to anything else that's there because it sticks out so far into the road. I mean, from what I'm gathering, it's probably only about 5 feet, 10 feet off the property line at the corner. That's quite close to the corner, and that's a very trafficked corner, and that may be a safety issue. It is definitely a line of sight issue for our piece of property, and I'd like to see the board, after all these years and 33 letters and 107 photos of the disgrace of that corner that I've made the town of Smithtown aware of. And to this date, we have never been successful in getting the proper use of all the building codes and zoning of this property to appeal to all the landowners and the natural environment around there. So I just want the town to know that we are not happy that the service to us was completely misguided. My wife and I received the tax bill at our home for 25 years, and all of a sudden, we're not getting notice of the hearings or anything. It's like you can do whatever you want as long as you said you did it. I think that's a totally not acceptable, and I'm sure it's not legal. Especially, I know the zoning requirements and what the notice has to be and how far in advance and who it has to go to. And I think that we have to be very sure of what Cumberland Farms and their attorneys and representatives are doing in representing what they say is good for the community, because I haven't spoke to anybody, has not contacted me or spoke to me directly about the development of that corner, especially when I have over 100 feet adjacent right to their property. And I think that I would not see any approval from this board at all for anything that Cumberland Farms want until they come to me and see what the local property people want. We've been in that, my children grew up in that neighborhood, okay? Like I said, I've owned that property over 40 some odd years. And I think it's important that the neighborhood has something to input here, especially people like myself and my wife who have adjoining property. And the board just passes things through like anything they tell you and anything they say to you, as long as they talk to the zoning department or the planning department and they come to some agreement, it's fine. But do you really look at what the local people want, what the local people feel is good for their community? I'm sure Cumberland Farms will run a very good organization, and I'm sure it's going to improve things. But I think there should be some more consideration to the adjoining property owners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Howard Singer. I live in Nesconset off of Gibbs Pond Road.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Singer, S-I-N-G-E-R. I live at 9 Grice Avenue, which is right off of Gibbs Pond Road, not far from this proposed site. But I'm really speaking out against some of these signage issues, as well as my previous neighbor here speaking. But I just wanted to ask, the increase in the maximum ground signage request was from 32 feet to 132 feet, but then there was discussion about it being changed. So what was the final total on that?
They come up with a total of 113 square feet.
Okay. Well,
113, 120.
Right. I mean, the reason why I'm a big believer in putting things in perspective. So originally, when you would say something around 32 square feet, it may be the size of a piece of plywood, 4 by 8. But when you start talking about things that are over 100 feet, it becomes quite large, and the initial 11 by 12 that was not 11 by 12, but 132 feet is more like 11 by 12 feet. So when you're sitting in the audience, it's about the size of the curtain behind you. So as a neighbor, my concern is also regarding the signage, that it doesn't become too high or an obstruction to your line of sight for traffic, because the intersection is already crowded from the 7-Eleven that was built on the other side of the street or on the other corner. And so that was really my main objective. The other is, of course, trying to maintain the character of the neighborhood, because since the 7-Eleven was built and now this is being built, I'm not quite sure what the tie-in is with the electrical grid to provide more power. But on Gibbs Pond Road, there's a lot more electrical poles, and that's not on the agenda, but I'm not quite sure what needs that facility requires. And so I'm interested in the board taking into account what the neighborhood looks like, and that you consider those things so that it doesn't change the landscape too much.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Good evening.
Good evening. John Rosito, R-U-S-C-I-T-O. I live at 5 Montrepose Lane in Nesconset, directly behind the premise. My concerns are, number one, of the line of sight around that corner. The gas sign is in a peculiar spot where it does create safety issues and so on. It also has a luminous value, which the other sign did not have. I'm sure the sign's going to be an LED. It'll look very bright. There's also these large signs they're looking to put on the building, which also have a very high luminous value. And when you put them up so high, it affects whomever is behind them. In fact, I do live directly behind them, and my bedroom window faces the building. So, you know, it'll be lit up, and there's no provision for a barrier or anything I see there. They're just concerned with obviously getting their message across. And that's my message, very simply. I don't want to see anything that's that light. I think it's overdone.
Okay.
They should maybe be a lamp on top of something with a nice wood sign or something like that, not a neon, you know, see it from 3 miles down the road. I don't need that through my bedroom window. And that's it, that's the point.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Could you pull the microphone down? Good, thank you.
I'm Martha Ruscito. I'm sure you could spell it by now, R-U-S-C-I-T-O. And I own the property at 318 Smithtown Boulevard. And as you said before, it is neighborhood business zoned. It's Nesconset, not New York City. We don't need a billboard of lights up there. And to all the residential neighbors that live behind there on Monrepose and across on Gibbs Pond Road as well, it is going to be, it's going to have an environmental impact, I'm sure, with all of those lights. People driving by at that intersection, which is extremely heavily trafficked now, and they're going to try to read all the signs and see what's where as they're coming around there. I don't see it as being an advantage. The other thing is the adverse conditions that were previous to there. I hope that we are not going to suffer them again. We'd suffered them for over 30 years there, and the retaliatories of Lake Ronkonkoma beverage. Now I am concerned as well with not just the barrier between our businesses, but particularly the residential areas. And I'm sure they've made provisions for, I think it's a 20-foot berm, is it?
Well, just ask,
Barrier?
we'll bring them up.
Required to be set there. So I didn't see anything like that on their plans, but I hope that they are in place. Other than that, everything else was pretty much in the past, and I am hoping that Cumberland Farms will bring much better neighbors to that area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, addressing the notice question, I've looked at the affidavit of mailing, and first of all, it's important to note that the mailing list is provided by the town, by the planning department, with the addresses provided by the planning department. I see certified mail receipts to the 2 addresses for the Ruscitos that are on the list provided by the town planning department, so I'm not quite sure what the concern is with regard to the notice. Turning to the comments regarding the signs themselves, it's important to note that one gentleman said he got up and talked about keeping things in perspective and keeping things proportional. It's important for the board to consider this is an extremely large piece of property. The neighborhood business district calls for a minimum lot size of 7,500 square feet. This property is over 1.5 acres in size. If the board were to think about it, if this property were to be carved up into numerous neighborhood business lots, there could be a sign on each of those lots going down Smithtown Boulevard and going up Roseville Avenue. This is one sign, one proposed ground sign. Is it a larger sign? Yes, it's larger than is permitted. But taking into account the fact that it's on a property that's over an acre and a half in size, it's 329 feet away from the closest adjacent property on Roseville Avenue and 314 square feet away from the closest adjacent property on Smithtown Boulevard. So the concerns about it being too close to other properties is really misstated. This property is located as far away from this sign, I should say, is located as far away from the residential properties as possible. It is going to be on the corner. It meets the required setback, and that is also a signalized intersection. So concerns about sight lines and traffic really misleading in that being a signalized intersection, the movements are controlled, and being that the sign is set back the required amount is the standard of the town's planning department that is met. Now, I would point out that this property is actually the subject of a road or a taking that's taking place by DPW.
What?
It's a dedication that Cumberland Farms is providing, which will make for a more appropriate turning lane on that corner, so it'll make it that much safer as well. But the setback is based upon the new dedication line, not the existing line, so it is compliant. It is fully compliant. As for the wall signs, none of the wall signs face the residential properties. They basically face the two roadways, and with the lowering of the side signs, they will have that will significantly reduce the amount of light thrown off onto adjacent properties. Certainly, again, the closest adjacent properties are quite far away. So with the modifications that we've made, reducing the height of the side signs, reducing the size of the ground sign, and as indicated, if the board sees fit to do away with the canopy signs, so be it. But with those modifications, we feel that these signs, particularly in light of the size of this property and the development that's accompanying it, are more than appropriate. And lastly, with regard to past conditions of the property, all I can tell the neighbors and this board is that Cumberland Farms maintains their properties in immaculate fashion. I would welcome the board members, if they've driven anywhere up in New England or elsewhere that Cumberland Farms has developed these large type sites, they'll see that they are immaculately maintained and really are a nice addition to a community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Excuse me, can I have something added to the record for something that I missed, was the first variance request? I was supposed to have this entered into the record, but I didn't get here in time.
Cases. Which case are you talking about?
This was 17724, the Jan property.
What do you mean? Oh.
It's closed. We can't. We already closed the case.
The case was closed, I can't submit this and just for record. It's from the Port Salon Association.
No.
So it's all.
Tremarco's not.
I mean, we understand about the request.
We can't talk anything.
That was decided, but this is.
Applicant's not here to rebut.
Yeah, but the applicant is not here. We can't even ask their consent to accept that. Yeah, the unfortunately, for you, the hearing was closed at 17, 18, almost an hour ago.
No, it was closed exactly when I arrived at 10 after 7. Due to the traffic and the rain, I didn't make it in time. But you're saying that under the.
Well, if the hearing was closed when you arrived, why didn't you approach at that time?
I didn't realize you were speaking about the Jan property.
Okay.
I just took a seat. I've been sitting here for an hour. The people behind me said that I missed it.
Okay. Well, we can accept it, but I don't, the
We
board's
can't- New
not
York
going to
state law says
consider
that
it.
we can't accept
really
anything
can't accept
after the
it.
case is closed.
Yeah, this case, I'm sorry, I mean, the
Well,
case is...
I understand that you can't accept it with regard to what you've decided, but can you accept it based on the fact that it contains information for you to consider going forward, not on variance, but for how the property is conceived?
But the only consideration this board has is for the variances. So what you're saying is, you're asking the board to consider something that bears no relevance on their thought
Well, I
process.
understand people are talking about lighting, and they would like you to consider how these things...
New York State's very, very clear that no additional information can be presented to this board unless the case is still open and the applicant is here to rebut anything that is said.
It was closed today? It was...
Yeah.
Yes.
The second it's closed, we can't
Closed
take
all
it,
the
not,
time?
we can't accept anything.
It's unfortunate, because this represents the entire community, and unfortunately, I came from the city, and you started it at 7 o'clock, and I missed it by 10 minutes. Do you have any suggestion for the Fort Salon Association and the information that the president has included in this letter?
It still goes through the
No.
rest of the town board processes, so they still have the Board of Site Plan Review
Sure.
they can speak to.
So my report back to this Fort Salon Association is that you're unable to accept this letter and enter it into the record.
Right, once the
That's
case
correct.
is closed, we can't accept anything else.
That's state law.
You close it before you even consider what's being said here?
We
No,
close it based,
what we do is, we bring the applicant up, he tells us why he needs the variance, we ask questions, then we open it up to the audience. Anybody in the audience can come up and ask any questions that they want.
And
Once,
you don't
once they're done, the applicant comes back and answers their concerns, and then we close the case.
So you don't take this information and then discuss it at a later date? It's just whatever was said is said, and
Which-
then it's closed? That's
We
it.
can only act on what was said at the meeting, when the case was open.
And even though you have not adjourned, you can't take this
We
letter?
have closed the
We've
hearing.
closed the case.
All right,
See-
I'll
see,
report
the
back that
the
it's
applicant-
very unfortunate, especially considering, the weather and whatnot.
But you appreciate the applicant has a right to rebut whatever it is or express concerns about whatever it is you would like this board to consider. The applicant has been gone for almost an hour.
Right.
So that would be unfair to them fundamentally.
The applicant was gone when I arrived.
It was the first case.
Yeah, I didn't know that, though. I just knew that it was starting at 7. I came as soon as I could. So they're able to rebut this. Well, this is not,
We're not able to change the state law. We're not allowed to accept any evidence or any testimony after the hearing is closed. We're not allowed to.
so even though this says if approved.
we can't,
us-
please don't say anything
We
because you're
can't.
really you're putting us in a bad spot because we're not supposed to accept any testimony
I'm
whatsoever.
not going to say anything. I'm just saying, what it's saying is that they're just requesting that you consider certain things, not regarding what you've already closed, but moving forward.
If it's with regard to that case, then we can't accept anything.
Huh?
You need a break?
You need a break? Rick, do you need a break?
Breathe.
All right, Blaise.
The next case on the agenda, number 17732, Greg Pace and Amy McCarthy, 20 Sunny Road, St. James. The location of the property, the southwest corner of Oak Street and Sunny
missing
Road.
I don't have that
Thank
page
you.
either.
Yeah.
The
Where are you?
property, apparently,
I'm
we're
missing-
missing a page, and
We're
I'm
mi-
reading this directly from the front page of the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Got that?
No, I don't.
Okay. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard on Sunny Road from 50 feet to 45 feet, which is existing at 47. Reduce the minimum front yard on Oak Street from 50 to 39, which is existing. Reduce the minimum side yard from 16 to 13 feet for a first-floor addition and a 1,629 square foot second-floor addition with deck.
Hi.
Good evening.
Oh, hi, how are you? My name's Amy McCarthy Pace. This is my husband, Greg Pace.
Hi, how are you?
We live at 20 Sunny Road, St. James. And members of the board, we respectfully request the variance as read by your board. The variances are requested are to square off the front of our L Ranch, and we're adding a porch and putting on a second floor. We had gone before the board a while back for a first-story addition with these same minimum reductions, but we since then had decided to add a second story to that addition. So it's the same setbacks, but it's the second story. So we came back just to let the board know that we were going to try to go ahead with that. The addition will be attractive in design, will match the, all siding will match, and will not be obtrusive or unsightly or produce any negative environmental impact, and does not impact any of our neighbors, and the hardship is not self-created, and we love St. James and Mills Pond Elementary, we have to stay there.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No. Planning?
No question.
No questions on the application, just a quick question. Do
Oh.
you happen to have the affidavit of mailing with you?
I think I gave it.
I have the affidavit of posting, which is for the sign. The affidavit of mailing was for the letters that you sent out.
Huh. Maybe I might have, oh my gosh, I hope I didn't drop it. Can I check the car and then?
Sure.
Yeah. I don't want to hold you up. Do I have to hold you up to do that? No. Okay.
We close it, and then they can,
They can give it to us.
all right, we'll
Thank you. I'm sorry
stay
about
right
that.
there.
We just both came from
No
work.
one on the
so-
board has any questions? Planning, any questions?
Nope.
Anyone in the audience have any questions on this application? No? You have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second?
Thank
All in
you.
favor?
Thank you so much.
Aye. Motion carried. Yeah, see if you can find those, if they're not in your car, and if they're at home, you can bring them to the planning tomorrow. All right?
Collecting things.
The next case on the agenda, number 17733, John and Rose Papora, 4 Adrian Court, Hauppauge. The location of the property, the west side of Adrian Court, 166 feet north of Adrian Lane. The property is owned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to permit environmentally sensitive land, depth to groundwater less than 10 feet, to be altered for a proposed pool. Nobody here? Okay. You want to go to the next one and...
What's going on?
Is this the person that said that they were going to be late? I know somebody had said that they were probably, they might have gotten here late, so it might be him.
All right. All right, we'll go to the next case, and when they show up, we'll bring him in.
Okay.
Next case?
Next case?
We're going to hold off on this one.
17734, Jessica Gonzalez, 7 New Highway, Comac. The location of the property, the northeast corner of New Highway and Lorinda Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum setback of an existing 6-foot fence from the edge of road pavement from 26 feet to 10 feet.
Good evening.
Good evening, members of the board, fellow neighbors of the town. We kindly would like to
Excuse me,
request...
can you just state
Oh,
your
I'm
name and
sorry.
address for the record,
Dennis
please?
Gonzalez, that's Gonzales. I reside at 7 New Highway, Comac. I'm representing my wife, Jessica Gonzalez, and myself. We formally request a variance. The variance would not produce an impact on adjacent properties of the neighborhood because it has been existing there for quite some time when the home was purchased in 2011, and it replaced an existing fence that was there in the same spot. The request is not substantial because this fence has been in that same location for over the 6 years, without receiving any complaints from neighbors. We have in fact received compliments for replacing the old fence with a more updated one. It adds much needed privacy on that busy corner where we live. New Highway is a very busy street. And it also provides a safer backyard for our young children. We have a 5 and a 3-year-old. The benefit cannot be achieved by an alternative because moving the fence would impede substantially on the backyard, which is the only area that my children have to play. We've also constructed and erected an entire wooden playground, which would require us to completely dismantle and move due to the loss of yard space that we would have with moving the fence. The variance would not impose an adverse effect on the environment because it has not done so for the past 6 years. PVC is extremely durable and expected to last for many more years, and we will continue to maintain our fence yearly like we have been for this time. The difficulty was created, we believe, by the former owner only because we did not find out till after the fact that no application was applied for the original fence that was there, even though it was noted and drawn in our in the original survey when we purchased the house in 2011. We felt that just replacing the fence would have been sufficient. We were not notified, or we just did not know that we did have to apply for a permit for a taller fence. That's basically it, though. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
No question.
Planning?
No questions?
Anyone in the audience like to be heard in this application? Come on up, please. Good evening.
Hi. My name is Bruce Fisher, Fisher. We live at 3 Lorinda Drive, directly behind the property in question. We have no problem with our neighbors. It's a friendly neighborhood. The original fence was a chain link fence. And people that come down New Highway and they turn into Lorinda, when we have to back out of our driveway, now that it's a privacy fence, when you come to the edge of the driveway, by the time someone comes around the corner, they're right on top of our driveway before you can see to back out. The original fence was put there, obviously, and it was chain link. I don't know if there was a code for chain link versus privacy fence at the time. Obviously, they didn't know that either, and they did place it. They are great neighbors. Their house is well kept. Everything is, as they said, a beautiful fence. But we thought that the variance meant that they would have to move the fence at least a little bit back from where it's originally been placed, as other neighbors that have corner properties in that same neighborhood have already had to move their fences back. So I don't know the impact it will make on them personally or the neighborhood itself, but the only really neighbor that's mostly impacted is us, because we live right on the adjacent property, and when people come around that corner, you can't see when cars come around that corner. And I think that's why the code is enforced for privacy fences. That's basically all I have to say about that.
All right.
There's nothing against them at all. They're great neighbors. We all get along. But we thought when they said they were 10 feet, I didn't know if their fence is exactly 10 feet now, and they had planned on moving it a couple of feet up. I didn't know what the actual dimensions were, or the measurements.
Well, from edge of road pavement, from 26 to 10.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, to move their fence back 26 feet would be crazy. But I don't know where it sits now from the edge of the road. I don't know how far it is. It's right on the sidewalk line. I don't know what that measurement is.
Yeah, it looks like 10 feet.
Looks like it's 11 at the corner where your property is right now. One of the things this board is pretty consistent with is fence setbacks. We very, very rarely approve it to 10 feet. We will generally ask for them to move it back some because it's just, unless it's a really unique case, which...
So you're saying that the board wasn't going to pass their original application anyway for 10 feet?
Well, the code allows a 4-foot fence right up to that spot. When you
Right.
go to 6 foot, it has to be 26 feet back. And we routinely get variances of this nature, and it is kind of standard for this board not to approve them to 10 feet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we can't see pulling out of the driveway. It's very,
Mhm.
very dangerous.
I'm sorry, your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Kathleen Fisher, Fisher. It's for the, since 2011, it has been extremely dangerous. We have to be in the street to see.
That's one of the things that this board
And like I
is-
said, they're very good neighbors. I'm not one, I don't write letters, I don't interfere. You know, it's just I've told both my children, when you back out, you have to stop in the middle of the street and watch left, right, left, that's all. But it's extremely dangerous.
All right.
So that's my only, you know,
Complaint.
right,
All
that's
right.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Good evening.
Hi, my name is John Burke, B-U-R-K-E. I live at 6 New Highway, directly across the street from them. I lived there 25 years. I think the fence is an improvement to the old fence, definitely. And for me, it's no impact on the vehicular or pedestrian traffic. The Fishers, I guess, they're in a unique situation. I live on New Highway. I back into my driveway all the time because the traffic is bad. And I think it beautifies the neighborhood.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Michael Richman, R-I-C-H-M-A-N. My address is 8 New Highway, and again, I'm next door neighbors across the street, perpendicularly, directly across the street. Yes, that corner, the traffic goes fast. The traffic goes fast around the corner, and I understand the Fischler's concern. I support, the fence. I feel more comfortable with the kids that they're protected in that environment, that they have a swing set that they can play in on a very busy road. My kids, we restrict it to the backyard because it's a busy road. The fence takes the place of the existing fence. It's the same exact position, just much nicer looking. And again, I have the comfort from pulling out in the driveway and knowing that the kids are protected. I walk my dog by the fence. I walk around there. I know the cars go fast around that corner. I know the Fishers are kind of catty-combed in that corner. It's not a straight path, so even with a chain link fence, they would have to take care in pulling out. But I do understand if the board has certain rules. But again, I'm here to support and say I have no issue with the fence. I've been living there for probably close to 30 years, and again, that's an improvement, and I don't, have any concerns on my end.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No one? Can I have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Oh, sorry.
You going to call the other ones back? Yeah. All right.
The next case, number 17733, John and Rose Papora, 4 Adrian Court, Hauppauge. The location of the property, the west side of Adrian Court, 166 feet north of Adrian Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to permit environmentally sensitive land, depth to groundwater less than 10 feet, to be altered for a proposed pool.
Good evening.
We have the affidavits.
Okay.
You're gonna have to lay that one out. There you go. Okay. Thank
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Rich Ignatow. I represent Paporas.
Can I have the applicant first?
Oh, sure. John Papora, P-O-R-P-O-R-A, 4 Adrian Court, Hauppauge.
Thank you. Would you like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Name and address, spell your last name, please.
Richard Ignatow, I-G-N-A-T-O-W, landscape architect, 91 Green Street, Huntington, New York. And as you know, this is simply an application because we are in a sensitive groundwater situation. We have supplied all the information required for the variance. Groundwater is found at 6 foot, 2 feet below the surface. There was a pool there before, it's been removed.
I'm sorry, what was the groundwater?
6.2 feet below surface. I think there's a report from McDonald Geoscience in your packets. That's what I'm quoting from. So by this, the proposed pool meets all setback requirements. It's not an issue here this evening, it's simply the issue of proposing to put a pool in a sensitive, environmentally sensitive, high groundwater situation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Anyone on the board have any questions?
What's the depth of the pool?
Excuse me?
What's the depth of the pool going to be?
Well, it'd probably be 8 feet deep.
No, 3.5
Oh,
to
3?
6.
Okay, 3.5 to 6, excuse me. There's no diving board, obviously.
No
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah. Is it an issue when it goes to groundwater?
What was the, what did the test boring,
6 foot, 6 feet 2 below the surface. Now, normally when a pool like this is built, close to groundwater, hydrostatic valves are put in the bottom of it. In case there's pressure coming up, it blows out the valves, and so the pool isn't affected. So it's not an uncommon.
But the bottom of the pool will be like roughly how far from the groundwater? Or is it going to be sitting in the groundwater?
It's almost sitting in the groundwater. You
Almost
also
sitting-
dig deeper and you backfill with gravel. So there's some potential for drainage. It's not the kind of pool you empty. You keep the water in the pool. Again, I've done this many times before. With
Environmental will review it, and as long as they don't see an issue with the groundwater, I don't think it would be a problem.
All right,
Okay.
all right, thank you. Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. The next case on the agenda, number 17735, PJ Venture, 4 Henry Street, Comac, the location of the property, the southeast corner of Crooked Hill Road and Henry Street. The property is zoned SCB. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum parking from 3,169 spaces to 2,465. There is an existing 2,553 parking spaces.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. John Baker for PJ Venture. As planning correctly quoted, we do have an existing variance. We're asking to add to that variance by 88 parking stalls. There's currently on site probably close to, planning, I was just talking about it, about 150 parking stalls available that are land banked. That area that we're looking to put the addition on, we had done a quick review study from RMS back in 2015 to see what the possible impact would be. And it wasn't substantial. That area next to Target is rarely parked in it. I was there, our offices at the site. When I left there at 2 o'clock, there were 3 cars parked in that whole area. Typically, there's nobody parked, even on a busy weekend. The Home Goods Marshalls extends a little bit into the Target parking lot, and then the Target personnel and their bar is parked directly in front of the store. So that area is very seldomly used. So we were looking to put that 23,000 square foot addition onto the existing Target.
And the land bank parking was 150 stalls?
About 150 stalls running down that aisleway. So we kind of balanced it out. If we had to install them, we would. To date, we never have seen the need to install them. I don't even think once this addition is there, we'd probably have the need to. Thinking back during the extreme holidays, Target doesn't have the food accessory in this one, so you don't have the Peapod and the food shopping. It's a regular dry use Target.
Right.
So you don't have that, all that wet use shopping is all over by Costco and ShopRite.
Right.
You know, so it's the quieter section of our property by far.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thanks.
Planning?
Mr. Chairman, I just briefly went over the parking study that Mr. Baker gave us, and looking at the numbers, in that area, there's 697 spaces currently provided. Based on the parking calculations that were done, and that was under ITE parking regulations and observations, on average, they need about or use about 350 spaces. And that's weekday or even Saturday and Sunday. So there's usually somewhere between 300 and 350 spaces that's available right now without the addition of the 23,000 square foot addition. But as Mr. Baker pointed out, there is land bank parking located at that site. If there was a need to expand the parking, they could, but it's doubtful that the parking would actually be needed.
Right. Thank you. Anybody in the audience like to be heard on this application? No. Can I have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Now to the adjourned hearings.
Yes. The next case, number 17674, Carl Veneziano. The location of the property is on the west side of Upper Dock Road, 100 feet south of Old Dock Road in Kings Park. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting to increase the FAR from 25 to 28% located in the LWRP. Reduce the lot area from 10,000 square feet to 3,623 square feet due to steep slopes. The actual lot area is 10,185 square feet. Reduce the minimum lot frontage at setback from 75 feet to 48 feet. Reduce the minimum side yard setback from 12 feet to 10 feet, and total side yards from 28 feet to 27 feet. Permit environmentally sensitive land, slopes in excess of 15% to be altered for a proposed 1,004 square foot, two-story dwelling with a 120 square foot deck. Permit structures within 10 feet of any slope higher than 25%. Increase the maximum front yard paving from 25 to 33%. Reduce the setback of an approximate 4-foot-high retaining wall from the property line from 4 feet to 1 foot. Permit a centerline gradient of access driveway to exceed an 8% slope to 9%. Permit a structure to be erected on a lot that does not or did not adjoin any lot in the same ownership.
Good evening.
Good evening. Donald King, 75 East Main Street, Kings Park, New York. I was in here on this application. It was adjourned for the slope analysis by planning. I'm going to present to you a letter dated April 25th, 1972, where a variance was approved on this property under case number 3870, and an extension of that variance was approved. And we're back looking for a variance on this property.
Thank you.
with respect to the floor area ratio, we're asking for an increase from 25 to 28. I'm going to go into this in more depth, the LURP, but I have some cases after LURP was approved in the town that I've got increases of certain variances. 1997, I got a case number 12164. I got an FAR increase from 25 to 34%. 2002, 13781, 25 to 32%. 2003, 13894, 25 to 43%. 2003, case number 14005, 25 to 40%. 2003, case 14024, 25 to 37%. 2003, 14132, 25 to 32%. 2003, 14006, 25 to 34%. 2005, 14823, 25 to 49%. 2006, 14970, 25 to 31%. 2007, 15419, 25 to 40%. And 2008, 15128, 25 to 44%. I'm going to present you with those cases, all within the LURP.
Thank you.
I'm giving you a list of all the properties down there with photos of them, and the second photo in, it lists all the square footage of the various properties down there. The restaurant with the 2 dwellings is 23,200 feet. There's a site with 4 dwellings that's 22,800 feet. 70 Upper Dock Road, there's four dwellings on 6,800 square feet. There's a multifamily at 81 Upper Dock Road at 18,000 square feet. There's 2 dwellings at 762 Old Dock Road on 4,400 square feet. And there's shows 1 dwelling that varies up and down, and I'd like to present that to you to get the character of the neighborhood. Now, when I was here last time, I asked if you guys, in consideration of this, would drive down Upper Dock Road. Went to Upper Dock Road and drive forward, and you'll see to your left as you go down what looks like 5 houses on one property, and directly in front of you, as you make the turn, you will see 6 houses on one lot. But I'm going to present you with that. Now, I got a memo from planning that is beyond my comprehension. A client of mine says I am so old that I was alive when the Dead Sea was sick. And I've never seen anything like this in all those years appearing before the board. The proposed use site is served by, or they're saying it's supposed to be served by or near to public or private sewer and water lines. Every house up there, every house, the 6 houses on one lot, the 4 houses on one lot, are served by private well, and that can't be. Public transportation service is available within 1 mile. They have to be kidding me. It's incomprehensible. You've got all these houses down there. This guy has 10,000 square feet of property, and they're saying you shouldn't give it to him because there isn't bus service near there. That with all the boats going down there, that with all the parking in the parking lot, and that all the people going to the restaurant. I don't know who, I don't know who adopted this ordinance, if they ever gave it any thought at all, as to the consequences of the insanity of it. There's no public water in the area. Well, none of the houses have public water. They're all on wells. As far as the Suffolk County Health Department, not meeting it, I've talked to Bill Lottie. He's my engineer. He worked for the Suffolk Health Department. He believes I can get them through the door with the Health Department with respect to the setbacks of the sewer, the well and so on. So that's not the purview of this board, that's the purview of the Health Department. This one really takes the cake. This is the stupidest thing I've heard since I started practicing. Stormwater runoff from the proposed site has to be accommodated on site. And, okay? The runoff, they're saying, can't be retained on site. Now, when you come down Old Dock Road, you're going to look down this road, and there's a few sewers, drains, as you go down the road prior to the booth. But all that runoff runs down into those 4 drains. And then from there, it runs into the river, because you can go down to some drains on the ramps, and all this water poof, down into the river. Then when you go down and you make a left, or you go down the parking lot in front, there's not one drain in front of the restaurant or the parking in front of the restaurant. You make a left into the parking lot, and you go up on top of the view of the bluff. Not one drain, not one storm drain sitting there. On the main parking lot, no drainage. All of the oils, the salts from the boats, the cars, go into the river, and they're saying he can't contain the water on his site, and therefore he should be denied this application. It's absurd. If we had to contain it on site, I think we could, but his impact would be infinitesimal to the boat traffic, the oils, the gasoline, and the salts that run down that whole road into that river. Crazy. Therefore, and then he say we're going to cut vegetation. Yes, there will be some vegetation cut to put the house up. This house, if you drive down there, is going to be sitting up on a flat portion of the property. Beautiful view overlooking the sound. He has a prior variance. Is it going to change the character of the neighborhood? No. It is like the Kennedy compound compared to those houses there. I don't think there's anybody up there with one house on 10,000. We need a variance to do it. Is it substantial? Not compared to the neighborhood. Will it have an adverse effect? No, it's going to be a nice addition to that neighborhood. And is it self-created? No. It's not self-created. We're asking for the variance. So I'd ask you to disregard the LURP recommendations. And if you feel you have to reduce the house down to 25%, my client would be willing to do it, but I don't think that is necessary. And we need this. We'd like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
I guess my question would be the approval that you submitted from the Zoning Board of Appeals back in 1972.
I handed it to you.
Yeah, I was looking at it.
Certainly, you didn't. What happens is when you wait and come back, I'm always on people to come back because there's always the introduction of new ordinances or like the LURP or some other condition that you're bound by. That's why we had to come in and ask for what we asked for today. The old days, it didn't happen. They made new changes, yes.
Well, my question was going to be, was it essentially the same application? Was it a smaller house?
I believe so. I didn't handle it, but I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
One-family house.
Planning?
No comments.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to be heard in this application? No? Can I have a motion to close this case, please?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, and that concludes our hearing for tonight.